Today's trip down the Turnpike is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. Welcome to Turnpike Sports. I'm Dave Weishuttle, and as always, I'm joined by my producer and co-host, Doug Weishuttle. Doug, a big weekend for UFC. Great fights.
Oh, and a whole string of great fights. A lot of good knockouts.
Yeah, some unexpected knockouts. And Amanda Nunes is showing why she is the best fighter in the world. I mean, give credit to Felicia Spencer. She took it the distance, but she paid the price. Boy, that was pretty brutal at the end there.
Oh, yeah, no, that was actually a really great fight to watch. I'll tell you can't have a UFC event without having Conor McGregor put his 2 cents into everything.
Yeah, I guess
he announced his retirement.
He announced his retirement. I wonder if this one's going to keep, but who knows? I mean, if he gets the right fight or in the right price, maybe.
I think that's the right phrasing, the right price. He'll come out of retirement.
He'll come out of retirement.
But he's got his proper number 12 going strong, so it's doing well, they say, in the sales. So, he's got a couple irons in the fire, and I guess it's just going to be a matter of whether or not the fight is right.
Yep, and I know there was a record bet placed on the fight, and I guess we'll talk about that during the book report, where we will talk later on, the Turnpike Sports Book Report, where we talk about what's going on in the sports books across the country. And before that, I got a great interview with Bill Asher, who's the CEO and founder of Monkey Knife Fight, an incredible daily fantasy sports site. I mean, anyone who does fantasy sports knows Monkey Knife Fight. They are the fastest growing fantasy sports platforms out there, and Bill's going to talk to us about what's going on at Monkey Knife Fight and what's going on in the future. Incredible deals.
And also one of the best names in the business.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, it's been a busy week in sports, so let's take a trip down the Turnpike. And today's trip down the Turnpike is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. Now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using our promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Exit 1.
Now, we were just talking about one of the live sporting events that happened over the weekend. One of the other big named league that's coming back is the NBA.
Yep.
They've agreed on a shortened finish to the regular season, a play-in tournament, and then the playoffs.
Okay.
22 teams, eight teams total were not invited to Orlando to play in this. Shortened season.
Yeah.
Finish the season. Yeah. 8 regular season games, a potential play-in tournament, and a 16-team playoff system.
Okay.
The one thing, everyone's been talking about, not only with the return of the games themselves, how it affects your sports betting aspect of basketball.
I'm curious. I haven't taken a good look at the futures right now, but it should be interesting. I'm curious to see how they all sit. I guess it's all going to be based on win percentage and how they're seated and how they're doing. And I'm curious to see what the 8-game schedule will look like and what teams are playing what other teams. And well,
you've got
a lot of moving parts here.
You've got, I believe it's 13 Western Conference teams, 9 Eastern Conference teams playing.
Okay.
Across the board with all the sports books, you've got 3 teams favored. Bucks, Lakers, and Clippers all favored to win the championship, all about the same price.
Okay.
They're all lumped together. Then the next tier teams, much greater odds to actually reach the finals.
I'm very curious to see how this layoff affected the players. You know, I'm sure these 8 regular season games that they're going to play, they're going to look a little rusty. I'm taking these 8 regular season games as preseason games toward the playoffs. So I guess that's what they're going to be.
The one thing that probably is beneficial is to players like LeBron James that basically have built-in rest during the season. These 2 months, 3 months of inactivity, I'm sure he's been, doing his own practicing and whatever he needs to do to prepare. But you're going to see a lot fresher legs, maybe a little bit more unsound basketball is a good way to phrase it because they haven't played together in a while.
Sure.
So it'll be interesting to see. But like I said, a lot of the sports books have Milwaukee and the 2 Los Angeles teams as favorites. The one thing everyone's got to look at is see exactly what bets are still in place from before the season got put on hold.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the NBA championship, the Western Conference, and the Eastern Conference championships, those types of bets are still alive.
Sure. I think the over-under win totals kind of thing. I mean,
some of them are already decided.
Yeah, some have been, but but I'm not sure how they're going to work that out. I'm sure they're going to work it out.
The one caveat: wherever you placed your bets, check with your sports book. And also check with the state, too, because there are certain minimum games that have to be played for certain bets to be paid out. I know in terms of season win totals, some sports books require a certain amount of games to actually be played, like in FanDuel. For some of their bets to be played out, they have a minimum 75 games to be played.
All right.
Now, some of those, a lot of those teams hit 75, and they've actually been able to keep those bets alive, or they're paid out already, especially with prop bets like team wins.
Well, that's where the 8-game regular season kind of format kind of plays in, I guess.
The one bet that has a lot of it already decided just by the sheer fact that 8 teams were not invited. If you put a bet on one of those 8 teams to make the playoffs, it's already decided. No. Done.
Yeah, okay.
So you lose that one automatically just by the fact that they weren't invited. But again, check your local sports book rules, check your casino rules, check the state rules before you go ahead thinking you have a bet still in play.
Yeah. What I have to check on is I have futures for Major League Baseball. I'm assuming they're not going to go. So
baseball is looking kind of bad right now.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
Well, I still have my Sixers championship bet.
All right.
Still alive at PointsBet.
All right. Well, there you go.
I didn't get great odds compared to what they are now. The Sixers right now are about 2,000 plus 2,000 to win the NBA championship. I actually got them at plus 650 before the season began.
Oh, okay.
So I may throw a couple more bucks on it, depending on how well everything goes here. Because again, the 8-game season, the 8-game finishing season, may not be very good basketball.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Exit 2.
Now, after all this time with the eSports and e-racing going on, we're seeing NASCAR get into it. We're seeing a lot of the other racing leagues get into it, as well as some of the other racing companies or car companies getting into it, launching their own e-series. Lamborghini is now launching its own e-series.
Wow, all right.
If you ever wanted to drive a Lamborghini, because it's only Lamborghini cars in the e-series, this is your opportunity. It's open to everyone that actually has the rig to do it.
Okay, I was going to say that. The only chance I'll get to probably drive a Lamborghini is in eSports. Well, so what is this? Who is doing this racing?
Lamborghini is doing it in conjunction with the video game, and I'm going to say this with as much pronunciation as I can, Assetto Corsa Competizione. It's an Italian racing game.
Well, that makes sense. Lamborghini is an Italian company, so why not do that?
The series is going to be called The Real Race. It's going to be open to gamers of all skill levels, consist of 5 qualifying weekends. They started this back the weekend of May 29th. It's going to go through August. And the top players are going to be flown to Italy in September to compete for the prize in person. It's an in-person finale. They haven't decided what the actual prize is going to be. It could be a car, obviously a Lamborghini, or a prize money, or a combination of both, but they'll get that figured out as they go along. But this is going to end in an in-person competition in Italy.
That's my question. They're not driving, but they're flying everyone to Italy so they can all compete in, like a stadium setting?
Only the top racers, the championship.
These top racers, are they going to have like a stadium, arena that you can watch everyone do these races?
It's really going to depend upon what's going on in terms of COVID.
Okay, yeah, all right.
So it may just be them in a room competing against each other.
If that's the case, why fly them to Italy? Why fly them to Italy?
It's part of the prize package.
All right,
for being one of the top racers, you go to Italy.
All right.
But again, it's really going to depend upon whether or not COVID is allowing people to do like an arena-style seating where the crowd can watch them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just going to be playing with themselves.
One thing about
wrong way to phrase that.
One thing about the sports, I mean, traveling must be a headache. I mean, if for any sports team thinking of coming back, and the travel considerations are really, really important.
That's why the NBA is looking at just one place to do everything.
Yeah.
And also, I believe the NHL is looking at 2 hub cities for their playoff system.
Well, they almost have to, because when you're dealing with the NHL and the NBA, you have Canadian teams. And, traveling across the country borders is a little tough, especially in a pandemic.
What'll be interesting to see is if Canada allows their teams to go into the United States at a certain point.
Well, I know they have to self-quarantine for a particular amount of time when they're traveling across into Canada. So, hub cities are important with regard to sports.
Exit 3.
Okay, first we had live sports, which gave birth to fantasy sports.
All right.
Now fantasy sports have given birth to fantasy finance.
Fantasy finance, okay.
This company called Investor, INVSTR, which launched in 2012. It's an online platform and a mobile app.
All right.
They were created to allow anyone to invest in financial markets using real or play money.
So this is like fantasy sports for the investor or the wannabe investor.
Exactly. They created Investor in 2012. A couple years later, they created what they call the Sports Star Index, which would allow people to invest in the same company sports stars invest in.
Okay.
Now, they've created the fantasy finance game.
All right.
Players get $1 million, fake money, obviously,
All right.
Access to the news and data they would need to make investments.
All right.
And they also get a little basic education on the basics of investing.
I got to tell you, that seems like a great game. It seems like it's a great teaching tool, especially for business school, if you want to look and analyze stocks and things like that. But it would drive me crazy if I made a lot of fake money, because I'd be thinking, okay, why wouldn't I be doing this in real life?
Well, here is the kicker with this.
All right.
You get in the game itself, it's a set amount of time to play against everybody else. The free version, you get 100 trades total that you can make.
All right.
In the pay version, $3.99 a month. You get
$3.99.
$3.99 a month. You get no ads, and you get unlimited trading. Plus, also you get extra access to other materials that the free players don't have. Now, this is why this is such an interesting company. You actually can, through this investor company, actually invest in these stocks for real.
Okay.
They have a deal with a company called Drive Wealth, which is a broker-dealer.
All right.
And if you're part of Investor, if you are seeing some of your stocks obviously doing well, you could take your real money through Investor and Drive Wealth and start investing in the real stocks too.
Okay.
So
all right.
Twofold, it's a fantasy game, but also if you see yourself doing well, you might want to throw some real money down on the real side of stocks.
Interesting. It's very interesting. It seems like you can actually make a little money on that one.
That's fantasy.
Test the waters and then you can make some money. That's pretty interesting.
Exit 4.
And finally, I'm always fascinated when companies look at doing trademarks for some of their products or brands.
One thing about looking at when companies go after a trademark and try to file a trademark for something, you can almost see their business plans for the future. So it's very interesting looking at these trademark applications.
Well, the World Wrestling Entertainment, I almost call them the World Wrestling Federation there.
Yeah.
The WWE has been on a trademark tear lately.
All right.
During the month of May, they have filed about half a dozen trademarks.
Okay.
It started, and actually they had a streak. They did 3 new trademarks filed in 5 days.
All right.
So they filed trademarks for In Your House at the beginning part of May, and then the following day they announced the return of the pay-per-view event, the next takeover In Your House, using that mark.
All right.
So they basically telegraphed the next event when they filed the trademark In Your House.
So the next big event they're probably going to have for pay-per-view is going to be or include the phrase "in your house."
Well, for that brand,
for that brand,
WWE,
okay.
The next NXT.
So more than likely, it's going to include the term "in your house."
Right,
All
exactly. They also filed the term Sister Abigail on May 13th, which is, if you follow WWE, there's a wrestler, Bray Wyatt,
okay,
who somehow has mystical powers through a spirit by the name of Sister Abigail.
Okay.
That's the story arc for that.
I might have to check WWE out now. That's an interesting storyline.
That's a very interesting storyline.
I'm very intrigued now.
And everyone knows Sister Abigail that follows WWE, so that one's not a surprise.
All right,
because they're trying to create products and everything for Sister Abigail.
Well, T-shirts and hats, I'm
exactly.
assuming. Okay.
Well, also to protect the the character's name on TV.
Sure.
The other one, on May 15th, they filed a trademark for Def Rebel. No one knows what that's for right now.
Def Rebel. So what do you think it could mean? Will it be a name of a character?
They're saying it could be the name of a superstar or a nickname of a superstar, or could be something else that could be a music label. Could be anything.
Okay.
I don't know. I see DEF there, and I'm thinking Def Leppard. I'm thinking Def Jam Records. It could be for anything using that name, but right now no one knows what it's for. They filed it for a whole slew of things, products, events, all that stuff that you normally file a trademark for.
Interesting.
And they also filed 2 other additional trademarks in May. They filed one for WCW and Total Divas.
Okay. Well.
And they abandoned the mark.
All right.
So they were busy on both ends here.
Wow.
They abandoned a mark.
Their intellectual
for Edge.
property attorneys were busy.
Yeah,
billed a lot of hours.
You had a lot of activity here. They got rid of the Rated R Superstar trademark that they had filed on behalf of Edge, which was one of their wrestlers.
Okay,
that was his nickname. They dropped it. So they've been busy. They used the pandemic wisely to actually take care of some business and
some housekeeping.
Come up with some creative stuff too.
Sure. And today's trip down the Turnpike was brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store available in over 95 cities across North America. Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today, and now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using our promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
And to get in touch with Turnpike Sports, call or text us at 609-512-5910, 609-512-5910. At Turnpike Sports is the show's handle on both Facebook and Twitter. Turnpike Sports Radio is the handle on Instagram. You can follow us there. Our email address is info@turnpikesportsradio.com. And you can watch us on your smart TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. Just head on over to turnpikesports.net for the TV channel.
And stick around for later on. We're going to be having the Turnpike Sports Book Report where we talk about what's going on in the sports books across the country. But coming up right after this, I'm going to have CEO and founder of Monkey Knife Fight, Bill Asher, for an interview. Monkey Knife Fight is the fastest growing fantasy sports platform out there, an incredible daily fantasy site, and he's going to tell us what's going on at Monkey Knife Fight and what can we expect in the future for Monkey Knife Fight. So stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore.
Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com.
They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-515-1558. 800-515-1558.
Welcome back to Turnpike Sports. For those out there who are fans of fantasy sports, you certainly know the name Monkey Knife Fight. They are one of the fastest growing fantasy sports platforms out there. And in the coming year, I think you're going to hear a lot more about them, whether you're a football, baseball, golf, or even an eSports fan. And to tell us what's going on at Monkey Knife Fight, we have the founder and CEO of Monkey Knife Fight, Bill Asher, on the line. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
As I said, if you know fantasy sports, you know Monkey Knife Fight. But for those who are not familiar with Monkey Knife Fight, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Monkey Knife Fight was an idea that started about 5 years ago, and I'm an entrepreneur. I've had a number of different businesses in entertainment for guys, and so I'm a sports fan. I'm a Bulls, Cubs, Blackhawks guy. And so, of course, obviously, I went and took a look at DraftKings and FanDuel and traditional fantasy sports. And also, I had seen a lot of other guys trying to start other fantasy sports sites, but none of them really interest me. And it seemed to me that there was an opportunity to create a fantasy sports site that was for, average sports fans like myself. We spent about 2 years. I met a guy, Nick Solsky, who was running the Draft Day, which was a fantasy sports site. And we spent a couple of years designing Monkey Knife Fight and testing it and seeing whether or not the average sports fan, people who weren't interested in the commitment and the product that was out there already in fantasy sports, would like it. And what we found was that it took off immediately. And so Monkey Knife Fight is a different kind of fantasy sports site designed for the average sports fan.
I got to ask you about the name, Monkey Knife Fight. I think it's one of the most interesting names out there. I mean, it just sticks with you. Is there a story behind it?
Yes. Well, the most important thing with branding in a very competitive industry like fantasy sports is that, you need to stand for something. And we wanted to stand for fun. This is an entertainment site. It's irreverent, and it does stand for that. As to how we actually came up with that name, it might have involved some tequila and a long night of writing, scribbling down names. The next day, we looked at our list of names, and it was obvious that was the one that stood out. It's the one that seems to resonate with people. Plus, it creates a fun logo for T-shirts and hats.
So for kids studying marketing in business school, that's the technique you should use, right?
I do. I recommend Tequila Kids.
When you founded Monkey Knife Fight, what was your philosophy, and what did you see in the daily fantasy market that you thought, you know what, we can give customers something different that the other sites aren't giving?
Yeah. Well, let me give you a little background on what was out there when I got there, and a lot of your listeners probably know, some probably don't, so I'll give a little background. You know, there's two main sites, DraftKings and FanDuel. They offer a similar product in fantasy sports, and you probably know what that is. You build a roster of players. You have a salary cap. Every player has a salary. You have to stay under the salary cap. You need to know every player in the league and their stats. It's a time-consuming process. But if you're a hardcore fantasy guy, that's cool. One study said that the average player spends 6.9 hours a week developing their roster. It's almost a full work day each week. That's hardcore fantasy sports guys. That didn't really necessarily appeal to me as an average sports fan. The other thing about FanDuel and DraftKings is you play against everybody out there who puts in a roster, which means you're playing against professionals, which is why I think that the stat I heard was 98% of the money is won by 2% of the players in traditional fantasy sports. You got no chance to win. And everyone knows that that's not a secret. I mean, most of the people listening know that fact. So with Monkey Knife Fight, we wanted to create something that was a little different. On Monkey Knife Fight, what you do is that you don't need to spend hours and hours. You don't need to know the backup tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles. You can just play regarding statistics of your favorite players on your favorite teams, and it's easy and it's fun.
Yeah, I got to tell you, a couple years back, I had to read commercials for one of those sites you mentioned. And they set up an account for me, and I had to play and give my weekly account of how I did. I came nowhere close to winning a lot of money, or I think I won $10 one weekend. And it's really stacked up against the average play. I mean, no one has time to do the research like you said.
Right.
When you go into Monkey Knife Fight, how does that level the playing field so the average and casual sports fan has actual fighting chance of doing something?
Absolutely. Well, let me give you an example of our most popular game. So let's say you are a Lakers fan, and the Lakers are playing Golden State. You're probably going to watch that game. I mean, why wouldn't you watch that game, of course? And so you go to Monkey Knife Fight prior to the game. What you're going to find, our most popular game is called More or Less. We have a number of different games to play. But More or Less is very simple and straightforward, like it sounds. Maybe we have LeBron James at 26 points. Maybe we have Steph Curry at 4 3-pointers, or Anthony Davis at 10 rebounds. You just make predictions on those stats. Do you think it will be more or less for LeBron, or more or less for Anthony Davis, etc.? And you pick anywhere from 2 to 6 of those decisions, and you put your money down. You then win or lose simply based on your skill. If you're right, you win. The payout is more if you make more predictions, and you win or lose based on your skill. Also, it's a lot more fun. So that's easy, obviously. It increases your chances based on your skill level. And the best part then is now you turn the game on. You're going to watch that game anyway because you love your Lakers. You're now having added entertainment to watching the game because now you can cheer for or against Steph to hit that three-pointer.
You know, I got to ask you, I talk to a lot of people in the casino industry, the sports betting industry, and the fantasy sports industry, and certainly this is one of the most challenging times that this industry has ever faced or gone through. As CEO and founder of a fantasy sports platform, you have a unique perspective. Tell me, in your opinion, how has the fantasy sports community and also Monkey Knife Fight, how has it fared during this shutdown of sports?
Well, it is a tough time, but it's a tough time for everybody in our society. We're no different. Sports obviously shut down almost overnight and really surprised people when it closed down, and had a great impact emotionally on a lot of people because we're a country of sports fans. It was devastating for a lot of people. And then for a couple of months, no one heard what was going to happen when they would reopen. So during this time, when nothing really was going on, Monkey Knife Fight, we decided that we were going to be aggressively open for business. We decided that we were going to use this time rather than laying off people because there was no sports. We actually expanded our workforce. We went out and were able to hire great people, some marketing people, some tech people who were available because of the pandemic. We went out and made relationships and signed deals with the Milwaukee Brewers, the San Diego Padres, Charlie Hoffman, the golfer. We've really been using this opportunity to prepare ourselves for the reopening. And, of course, what we all now know in the last couple of weeks is there's a lot of talk about specifics. We're starting to hear, golf, we know, of course, starts next Thursday, and it will be going, June, July, full force. We're looking at maybe, July for the other major sports, maybe August, September. The NFL is planning on starting on time. So what's going to happen is that, yes, it's been very slow for a couple of months, and that's hard on everybody. But because we've used this opportunity to expand and position ourselves at Monkey Knife Fight, we're really excited about this fall. This fall should be record-setting TV viewership, record-setting fantasy sports play. We did a poll recently of people on our site, our players, to ask them about golf. This golf is starting next week. And we asked how many had ever played on our site a golf contest. And it was 27%. Sounds about right. We asked, are you going to play on Monkey Knife Fight when golf reopens and it's one of the first major sports? 76% said they were going to play. 76% also said they were going to watch these golf events on TV. So we're really very excited about where this is going. It's been a tough couple of months. It's going to be tough for another month or so. But this fall, it is going to be fantasy sports mecca. You're going to have NHL, you're going to have NBA, Major League Baseball, football, you're going to have golf, you're going to have everything going at once. And there's so much pent-up demand for sports and for fantasy sports that really we're very, very excited about where we stand.
Your expanded workforce did an amazing job reading about these deals and partnerships, and I want to ask you about a couple. You mentioned Major League Baseball. It's been in the news lately, and we hope they get back to playing very soon. But again, you made some incredible deals and partnerships with the Milwaukee Brewers and the San Diego Padres. Can you tell me about these partnerships and what can we expect to see between Monkey Knife Fight and these two teams?
Well, we are also in talks right now for a number of other partnerships. We're very excited. What we're doing is we're targeting certain teams in certain markets where sports gambling has not been legalized and has not taken hold yet, looking down the road. So Wisconsin and California, two of the areas you mentioned, are two of the areas we're targeting, and we're going to continue to do that. We're going to selectively target teams in areas where sports gambling is not yet legal, where we can use our product that's very, very popular. It's, I think we mentioned before, we're the fastest growing fantasy sports site. So although FanDuel and DraftKings have large customer bases, they can't add to it. And we have shown the ability to very inexpensively, through low customer acquisition, because of our product and the popularity of our product with average sports fans, we can add customers very quickly. So we're targeting markets like Southern California. Previous to the pandemic, we had already done a deal, sponsorship deal with the LA Chargers. You may have heard we did a deal with the XFL team, the LA Wildcats. Yep. They actually put our logo on the back of their helmet. It sounds crazy.
Wow, really?
We were the second company ever to have our logo on a professional football helmet. The first who beat us by about a week was Budweiser in Dallas, but we got it in LA. And we've been targeting California. Since then, as you mentioned, we've done the deal with the Padres and also Charlie Hoffman, the golfer, who was also from San Diego. So we're going to be doing more of those deals. You're going to see our logo on baseball stadiums, and soon it'll be in basketball arenas and ultimately on football stadiums again, as it was with the Chargers. And you'll see that in specific territories where, sports gambling is not there yet. We're going to target those markets. We're going to grab as many customers as we can, get as much play as we can in those areas.
I want to bring up something amazing that you guys did. Monkey Knife Fight actually contributed to charities with these MLB teams involving the COVID relief. What charities were involved with the two baseball teams?
We did, and also with Charlie Hoffman, who has his own foundation.
Oh, great.
That was really started out very interesting. Since it was during that 2 months when baseball was down and, sports were down in general. All sports were down, and so to be honest with you, when we were out being aggressive and making phone calls, and we called the Milwaukee Brewers and we called the San Diego Padres, first of all, anybody in the sports world is thrilled to get your phone call right now.
Yeah.
They're thrilled to hear the phone ring. That's what they don't have. And furthermore, when the conversation turns to supporting those people who are out of work in their organizations, which is what they were doing in their cities, both of those teams very quickly responded to this concept of, hey, let's create a relationship long term, and let's start it with today with Monkey Knife Fight helping you with these important charities in your community. And these were quality organizations that responded to that. That's why we ended up doing deals with them, I think, was that they responded to that thought of, let's use this time to help the people who are out of work, with the understanding that down the road, when sports will come back, sports will be back, and then at that point, we will have a great relationship that started and was founded upon charity.
You brought it up, and I can't wait to see your logo on the PGA Tour, because I can't wait to put on TV and see the Monkey Knife Fight logo on it. I mean, I rarely hear about a daily fantasy sports platform doing a deal with PGA Tour Pro with Charlie Hoffman. Can you tell us how that came about?
It is. It's as far as we know, it's the first time a fantasy sports company's ever done it. It'll be the first time. He'll be playing Thursday with our logo on his shirt, and it's a unique logo, as one can assume. And it came about through, we simply knew, we were doing business with someone who knew him, and when we heard that potentially he might be available, we jumped on it right away. I mean, he is a fan favorite, probably the most popular player in golf in terms of, with the other players. He's the chairman of the Players Association. He's been a winner on the tour, and he's been around for a while. So we jumped on the opportunity of putting our logo on him, but also he's very excited. He wants to get into fantasy sports stuff. He finds it interesting and entertaining personally. And I think that authenticity, the fact that he really does like it, and he's been already doing interviews about us and fantasy sports, I think that adds to a good relationship.
So what can we expect from this partnership? I mean, is there going to be more fantasy golf contests on Monkey Knife Fight?
Absolutely. We're creating stuff right now. I mean, with golf being the first sports back, or one of the major ones, of course, we have UFC and we have NASCAR, but golf is coming back with, multiple tournaments in June and July. We're going to create a specific contest just around the golf. And I think that, based on the pent-up demand for sports and the fact that there is not going to be a lot of sports and people are going to be waiting for the Rorys and the Tigers and all of that, there's a lot of opportunity for unique games.
One thing that came out of this pandemic has been a more focus on eSports and virtual sports. What do you think the future of eSports and virtual sports when it comes to daily fantasy?
Esports really had the opportunity to shine. For a while there, they stood alone, and a lot of people who had never taken a look at them as it relates to fantasy sports or sports in general got a chance, and people found it very interesting and exciting. We had a lot of people on our site who play NBA and play NFL, but they had never played esports on our site, and during that period of time they did, and they liked it. They found it to be entertaining. It's great for watching. So I think it tells you that whether it is fantasy sports or down the road sports gambling, it's going to be a huge market.
Now, in fact, you did something with Enthusiast Gaming involving esports. Can you tell us something about that?
Sure. They are a huge content company, and they have sites and they have players and teams. And we were really lucky to be able to do a deal with a company like Enthusiast. They were able to give us exposure that really, frankly, no one else in that industry could give us. And we're looking long term. We feel like the 3 to 5 year outlook for esports is going to be huge. It's really just developing for fantasy sports and sports gambling. And so we want to get our name out there and our unique name out there in that world. Enthusiast Gaming was able to do that for us and continues to do that for us.
When it comes to fantasy sports, what is the sport that is king when it comes to customers? I talk to a lot of people, and each one has a different favorite daily fantasy sports. But as a business sense, what is the sport that is king?
It's a very seasonal product, fantasy sports. Some people only want to play golf. Some people only want to play football, etc. But what we've seen is that it's seasonal in that when you have multiple sports available, you have multiple opportunities to play when you go to Monkey Knife Fight, and people do. So NFL is still going to be the biggest sport for fantasy. NBA is right behind it, very close. But more importantly, let's say you have NFL and NBA going on during a week. Well, what we see is that a person will come in and maybe they're an NBA guy and they like to play the NBA. But come Sunday or Monday night or Thursday, they play NFL. And then after, come Tuesday when NFL is done on Monday night, on Tuesday they play NBA on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then back to NFL on Thursday. So those are your two big sports. But more importantly, when you have multiple sports going at the same time, you have multiple opportunities to play. Our play on our site, goes up dramatically. And the reason that's relevant is what we're seeing right now is a unique time this year in 2020. Where sports all are going to be pushed into one fall period. You're going to have NHL, golf, NBA, NFL, etc. Everything's going to be played pretty much this fall. So we expect to have record play on our site because when let's say you're an NHL guy and you like playing hockey on our site and you love it and you do it every day, when you're on there, you're also going to play other games that are there and other sports.
Well, you predicted my next question. I mean, this is going to be such a unique fall. How are you preparing for this, influx of professional sports?
Well, I mentioned before that we've used this downtime, and we continue to use this downtime to be aggressively open for business. We are doing partnerships, and we are doing other things. Our longer-term goal is to acquire as many customers. I think I mentioned we're the fastest growing simply because people like the product. The average sports fan likes the product. And so therefore it's easy for us to acquire customers. Our goal this fall is going to be to spend heavily on customer acquisition to greatly expand our customer base. And because all of these sports are being played at the same time, it's going to be very easy and inexpensive to get people to play on our site because there's a lot to play. And there's a lot more revenue for us because when you're on the site, you're playing multiple sports. So it's a great time for us. So we're going to invest heavily. We're raising money this fall. We're doing a big fundraise this fall, maybe possibly going public, in order to spend a lot of money on customer acquisition. That's our plan long term, is to acquire customers, particularly in states where gambling is not yet legal.
Well, let me ask you about long term. A couple of years ago, we've had people on our show who came on as daily fantasy sports providers. And now this year and the last 2 years, they've come back on as sports betting operators. Do you see that path for Monkey Knife Fights, or do you think the daily fantasy sports market is the best business model for Monkey Knife Fights right now?
Well, it's a little from column A and a little from column B. Most of the other companies, right now, basically there's three fantasy sports sites. There's Monkey Knife Fight, and then there's DraftKings and FanDuel. I think virtually everybody else tried and didn't really find the product that worked. And so what they did is that they've gone to B2B rather than B2C, and they've done some other things in an attempt to stay profitable and relevant. For us, we've got a product that's very popular. And as I said, fastest growing because it's very popular with the average sports fan, which is most people in America. We should probably just mention very quickly what's going on with DraftKings, because I know you're a gambling guy and a sports gambling guy, and you probably know more about this than I do with DraftKings. But that's the big story right now in gambling and in fantasy sports. DraftKings is a fantasy sports company, but it's worth now publicly on the public market about $14 billion. And obviously it's not worth $14 billion as a fantasy sports product. It's worth $14 billion because people see the value of down the road in 3 to 5 years. By the way, DraftKings loses money. It's going to continue to lose money by its own projections through 2023. So it's not about what it can do right now, but the concept is a fantasy sports company is going to be so well positioned for sports gambling as states make sports gambling legal. So if the assumption is that if you are in California and California legalizes sports gambling in the next, 2 years, 3 years from now, the idea is that DraftKings, the reason it's worth $14 billion, is that they're going to be positioned as a fantasy sports company, a dominant fantasy sports company in California. So they can get a license at that point that it becomes legal, and they can offer their fantasy sports players a sister site that has gambling, sports gambling. And although not all gamblers are fantasy sports players, the assumption is that most fantasy sports players, if you offer them sports gambling easy and legally, they will gamble. So the assumption is that DraftKings is going to have a very good foothold, or any fantasy sports company who has a large customer base and who has brand awareness and brand loyalty is going to do very well in sports gambling. It's going to be dominant in sports gambling. And the same holds true for Monkey Knife Fight. Where are we going? Why are we targeting Southern California with these sponsorship deals and with our advertising? Why are we looking at Wisconsin, the states that don't have gambling yet? Because we plan on spending a couple of years building up our customer base. Now, unlike DraftKings, our fantasy sports product is profitable. And so we're going to spend heavily, we're going to raise a lot of money and spend heavily to acquire customers at a very low amount and build up our customer base, turn a profit off our fantasy sports, and then as gambling becomes legal in a state, we will also offer gambling to that same customer base. So we can make money off of them as a fantasy sports site, and then secondly also as gambling down the road.
What can we expect in the coming year from Monkey Knife Fight? Like I said, this is going to be an incredible year for sports, and it's going to be compact all in one time period. What can we expect from Monkey Knife Fight? What great things are happening this year with Monkey Knife Fight?
Well, we're going to be doing in the next year, we're looking to expand our games and our opportunities. One of the things that people are very excited about is, some people call them, micro bets, or the ability to, make decisions about everything from what the next pitch in a baseball game is going to be to what's the next play that the offense is going to run in a football game. There's a lot of opportunities to create additional games, in-game play down the road, which is what we're working on also. And I know people are very excited about that. As far as marketing, I think you're going to see a lot more partnerships with Monkey Knife Fight. We are talking to a number of strategic partners who would be not only promoting us, but also probably would be owners with us. And I think you're going to see a number of big announcements on that in the next year as we roll out in those specific states.
Bill, we're running out of time, but if people are interested in checking out Monkey Knife Fight, how can they do it?
Well, go to monkeyknifefight.com. We are right now in the process of putting up our app, so we're very excited. Tell all your customers to go to Monkey Knife Fight, and obviously, Thursday, golf is back. So get ready, everybody. Go check us out next Thursday. Say starting maybe Monday or Tuesday, you're going to start to see new games being put up for the Charles Schwab golf event. So get your predictions in on how Tiger's going to do, Rory's going to do, and of course Charlie Hoffman.
Bill Asher, founder and CEO of Monkey Knife Fight, which is an incredible daily fantasy sports platform. Thanks for coming on and telling us all about Monkey Knife Fight, and please come back on and give us updates on what's going on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the time.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more Turnpike Sports.
We like to think that we live in a nice, safe neighborhood. The truth is that a burglary occurs every 13 seconds, and homes without a security system have a 300% greater chance of getting broken into. How many homes in your neighborhood were robbed yesterday? You need to start protecting your home and family today. Call now to get state-of-the-art protection. To keep your family and property safe, call the number on your screen now. Representatives are standing by to assist you. Sometimes life is wonderful, and sometimes it's not. Cherish the good, but always be prepared for life's challenges. If your employer doesn't supply health care coverage and you don't qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, you need to give us a call right now. Private health care is private health insurance for ages 65 and under with medical, dental, vision, and even prescription coverage. To get the coverage you need, call the number on the screen now.
Turnpike Sports Book Report.
And the Turnpike Sports Book Report is brought to you by BorgataSports.com. Your favorite casino is now your favorite sportsbook, available anywhere in New Jersey. BorgataSports.com. Sign up at BorgataSports.com using our promo code PIKE, that's P-I-K-E, and you get a risk-free bet up to $300 and 20 bonus at BorgataCasino.com. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, as we said at the top of the show, it was a big UFC weekend.
Huge betting weekend if you're a UFC fan, and if you're a fan of sports betting in general, it's a huge weekend.
Well, it showed there's a huge pent-up demand for sports betting again.
Absolutely.
And it's been a while for a lot of people to get in on some of this action. And right now, with golf starting up this coming weekend, that's going to be a huge event.
Absolutely.
NASCAR's still going strong. You're starting to see more and more live sports. Bundesliga again. And a lot of the sports books for this past weekend were reporting huge handles for this MMA fight. Mm-hmm. And it was nice to see. I believe William Hill even had a record bet.
Absolutely. Boy, that was Amanda Nunes just demolished her competition, as always. I mean, give props to Felicia Spencer. She took her to the distance, but it wasn't really that close at all. She took some punishment.
I have to admit, I was surprised that no one had bet $1 million on a UFC fight before. At William Hill, anyway.
I'm very surprised at that. But William Hill, no, someone placed a bet on Amanda Nunes.
$1 million to win $1.16 million total payout. So $160,000. That was the payout.
Was it really?
Yeah. 1.166 was the payout.
Oh wow!
The total payout. So it was it was a good bet. And I know there were a lot of huge parlays being made in various sports books around the country.
Yeah. So let me tell you something. Some huge knockouts too. I mean, it just fantastic fighting action.
No, it was great. It was great to see. And again, more and more UFC stuff is coming. Now we've got boxing coming back. A couple fights have been cleared for June, possibly, depending upon the protocols for testing the fighters.
Yeah.
So,
well, this is a good test for boxing industry. I mean, it's a good way to do it. I mean, Certainly the UFC is going through this. They don't have anyone in the crowds, but, it can be done in a safe way.
What's actually nice to see is the fact that at least they're coming back and they're cooperating.
Yeah.
With the Gaming Commission, with the Boxing Commission, in terms of actually doing it in one location. I don't know when and where they're going to have fans again, but it's nice to see some of these sports coming back, and a lot of the cards are coming back. They haven't decided who's going to be really fighting on some of the boxing cards. Dana White's already got everything ready for this UFC cards coming up. So
sure. Is he still doing the island thing? I haven't heard too much about that.
He's still doing the island.
Okay.
When and where that happens, or actually when that happens, really we don't know. He hasn't really announced the cards yet for that stuff. But, again, good turnout for UFC. It's showing a lot of pent-up demand for sports betting.
And Conor McGregor announced his retirement.
Yep. I wonder what the odds are for him coming back out of retirement.
Yeah.
I'm sure that some sites got that up, whether it's offshore or licensed, I don't know. But I'm sure there are odds out there already after he announced his retirement. Couldn't go to a UFC event without seeing his name mentioned somewhere. Going over to the sports books. Rhode Island announced their April numbers. According to the Rhode Island Lottery, $591,000 in handle for the month of April, which was not almost 97% year-on-year drop.
Yeah, wow, you're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, and mobile betting, of course, accounted for the majority of the betting. 589,000 of the 591,000 was online. I'm assuming the remaining portion of it was future bets, all that stuff, from the retail side. Mobile betting accounted for $28,000 in revenue, and the land-based sports books reported a combined loss of $821. Going over to West Virginia. West Virginia was interesting in the month of May. Usually they just report the numbers for week to week to week.
That's what I was going to say. They do the weekly reporting.
So a lot of the places are doing the summaries for May, and I'm taking advantage of some of the hard work, especially from the guys over at Legal Sport, and I appreciate that. The May online handle was up 247% from April. Now, I'm saying the percentage because when you look at the numbers, it's really not a huge number. It's $2.7 million compared to April, went up. First half was pre-NASCAR. They averaged about $1 million. After NASCAR was reintroduced, the average handle was only about $1.25 million.
Oh, okay.
So, again, you would think in West Virginia,
yeah, I know,
NASCAR would kick it up a little bit more than just
NASCAR's
a little bit.
king down there. So.
But it didn't have that much of an effect, which is kind of curious.
Okay.
Over in Iowa has rejected a request from the Gaming Association. The Iowa Racing and Gaming Commission has rejected a request from the Gaming Association to allow betting on eSports.
Good. There's going to be a lot of that. I mean, just eSports is exploding. Esports and virtual sports.
That's why I'm confused as to why they didn't want to do it.
Yeah, no. Well,
I mean, if it's according to the Racing and Gaming Commission, it falls outside of the definition of sporting events.
Really?
For their rules.
Really? This is
yeah. It's very interesting the way they have that set up. That esports isn't part of the umbrella.
There are certain states, including New Jersey, where we're sitting now. They're trying to pass legislation to allow sports betting for esports. So I'm surprised.
One of the big proponents of esports betting was DraftKings, but DraftKings did get permission to offer esports fantasy contests in Iowa.
Okay.
So, DraftKings actually got a foot in the door somewhere.
They're really drawing a line.
Yeah.
A very, very interesting line between those two activities. But, hey, I guess something was in play there. Well, I'm not sure what's going on there.
Right now, only UFC, NASCAR, and PGA are going to be the only sports available to bet on.
Okay.
Also, Iowa banned credit card use for sports gambling.
Really?
Which I think is kind of smart.
Well, why?
A lot of people get a little crazy.
Okay.
I mean, responsible gambling side of me is saying maybe that's a good thing in certain areas. I know a lot of places in the UK have banned the use of credit cards for gambling.
It's interesting.
And it's part of that responsible gambling aspect of everything. And it's nice. It's nice to see. I know a lot of people want to do it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
There must be some way you can do a healthy balance between credit card use for gambling and not.
Well, especially also if you're, doing this online. I mean, it's you kind of have to be able to put stuff into your account. Right. So, and credit cards makes it easier.
But I understand the argument against it. So,
okay.
Moving over to Michigan, DraftKings announced a partnership with Bay Mills Resort and Casino to get a market access deal, subject to all the licensing requirements when sports betting relaunches there.
Michigan is going to explode. Their gambling bill, I mean, when they expanded gambling, they did the whole shebang. They did online casinos, online poker, online sports betting. It's incredible what they did.
Well, DraftKings will be not only running the mobile and online sports book for Bay Mills, they'll be doing a retail book there, too, in Michigan. Going over to Indiana, I found this really interesting. Indiana has banned the betting on certain levels of table tennis events.
I got to tell you, I am so sick of hearing about ping pong. For months now.
I never knew
ping pong and darts, and I'm tired of it.
I never knew table tennis was this regulated.
I guess it is. And I actually on one of the sports books I was on, the mobile sports books, they were actually streaming the matches.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. It's intense. These guys are really good at what they do, but I'm just not getting into the ping pong.
But only ITTF and ETTU events are available to bet on now in Indiana. Mm-hmm. I don't know the names of these commissions that run table tennis events, but I guess it's a serious thing, and the integrity issues.
Absolutely. Hey, if you're betting on it, you better have regulations and you better have oversight. And so, it's a good thing that they're having oversight, but just as a sport itself, I'm trying hard to get into it, and I'm not getting into it.
But it's nice to see a gaming commission step up and take a look at the integrity of some of the events. And
good.
I guess there was enough concern there where they had to make that decision and limit the amount of events that are available for betting.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us this week. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time on the Turnpike.